Hello everyone, welcome to Theory Wise. Today we are going to discuss on Daddy by Sylvia Plath. In this video, we will cover a stanza-wise analysis of the poem. We will discuss on important themes of the poem. Also, we will share some relevant information that are essential to the readers. The poem was composed on 12th October 1962, 4 months before her death and 1 month after her separation from Ted Hughes. Then Plath moved to London along with her 2 children. It was published posthumously in Ariel during 1965. The first stanza reveals the nature of this particular father-daughter relationship. The speaker compares her father to a black shoe. It's a metaphor, a strange comparison, until the third line reveals that the speaker herself has felt like a foot that has been forced to live 30 years in that shoe, in that particular black shoe. The foot is poor and white because for 30 years it has been suffocated by the shoe and never allowed to see the light of the day. It is very much clear that this particular speaker is even afraid to breathe or sneeze, never allowed to be free. In the second and third stanza, the father figure has been illustrated as a massive fallen statue, a towering presence of fear and trepidation. The word statue points out to a man without any capacity of feeling in him. Even the daughter or the speaker here wants to kill her father. The first line states, "I have had to kill you." A fresco seal refers to one of the sea lions that can be seen in San Francisco. When she describes that one of his toes is as big as a seal, it reveals to the reader just how enormous and overbearing her father seemed to her. Though he was a beautiful human specimen, but he was awful, he was freakish. She thinks he looks like an enormous, ominous statue. In stanza 4, the speaker focuses on the origin, roots, language of her father. The speaker knows that her father came from a Polish town where German was the main language spoken, and that place had endured one war after another. The speaker finishes what she began to explain in the previous stanza by explaining that she learned from a friend that the name of the Polish town her father came from was a very common name. For this reason, she concludes that she could never tell where he put his foot. But we need to understand, actually, the speaker could never ask her father, as she was afraid to talk to him, her tongue stuck in her jaw. Again in stanza 6, the speaker continues to describe the way she felt around her father. Ich is the German word for I. She could only utter and say I, ish, ish, ish. She then describes that she thought every German man was her father. This reveals that she does not distinguish him as someone familiar and close to her. Rather, she sees him as she sees any other German man, harsh and obscene. Stanza 7 describes the speaker as someone who felt like a Jew under her father's presence. She identifies herself with a Jew. She talks like a Jew. Mentioning of Dachau, Auschwitz, Belsen, these are some of the famous concentration camps during the Holocaust under German supervision. During that period, over 6 million Jews were killed. She then concludes that she began to talk like a Jew, like one who was oppressed and silenced by the German oppressors. Then she concludes that because she feels the oppression that the Jews feel, she identifies with the Jews and therefore considers herself a Jew. In stanza 8, the speaker continues to criticize the German, as she compares the snows of Tyrol and the clear beer of Vienna to German idea of racial purity. She concludes that they are not so very pure. Furthermore, she identifies herself with the gypsies, as they were singled out for execution by the Nazis like Jews. In fact, the narrator identifies with anyone who has ever felt oppressed by the Germans. She implies that her father had something to do with the Air Force, as that is how the word Luftwaffe translates into English. Gobbledygook, however, is simply gibberish. This implies that the speaker feels that her father and his language made no sense. She was afraid of his neat moustache and his Aryan eye, bright blue. The description of his eyes implies that he was one of those Germans whom the Nazis believed to be a superior race. He was Aryan with blue eyes. He was something fierce and terrifying to the speaker, and she associates him closely with the Nazis. In this stanza 10, the speaker compares her father to God. She clearly sees God as an ominous, overbearing being who clouds her world. This is why she describes her father as a giant black swastika that covered the entire sky. The third line of this stanza begins a sarcastic description of women and men like her father. She mockingly says every woman adores a fascist, and then begins to describe the violence of men like her father. She calls her father brute 3 times in the last 2 lines of this particular stanza. If these lines were not written in jest, then she clearly believes that women, for some reason or another, tend to fall in love with violent brutes, which is very much true in her own life as well. The word blackboard reminds us of the speaker's father's profession, who was a professor. Cleft foot is indicative of the devil, and therefore the narrator's father was someone who was devilish in nature. Black man, the particular word black man here suggests the darkness of speaker's father's soul. So far, we have talked about the speaker's anguish, anger, pain, and other issues related to her father. But this particular stanza, stanza 12, adds a new dimension to this father-daughter relationship. It is possible that as a child, The speaker was able to love her father despite his cruelty. She even tried to kill herself in order to reunite with her father. Her love or deep love for her father is expressed in this particular stanza. Stanza 13 is a crucial stanza where the girl creates male number 2 based on the father. Sylvia Plath was glued back together by doctors after her failed suicide attempt. In the poem, this suicide attempt is a catalyst for action. The girl creates a model, a version of her father. This replica strongly resembles Plath's husband, Ted Hughes. Here, Freud's theory comes to the play, the theory that girls fall in love with their fathers as children and boys with their mothers. Also suggests that these boys and girls grow up to find husbands and wives that resemble their fathers and mothers. In stanza 14, the speaker reveals that the man she married enjoyed to torture. She confesses that she married him when she says, "And I said, I do, I do." Then she tells her father that she is through. This means that having recreated her father by marrying a harsh German man, she no longer needed to mourn her father's death. She then describes her relationship with her father as a phone call. Now she has hung up, and the call is forever ended. Before analyzing stanza 15, we should understand the concept of staking. Perhaps the most iconic weapon used by vampire hunters is the wooden stake. The concept of staking began with the idea that if a corpse was pinned to the ground or to its coffin, it could not rise as a vampire. The speaker refers to her husband as a vampire, one who was supposed to be just like her father. As it turned out, he was not just like her father. In fact, he drained the life from her. This is why she refers to him as a vampire who drank her blood. It is not clear why she first says that he drank her blood for a year. However, the speaker then changes her mind and says 7 years if you want to know. When, when the speaker says, "Daddy, you can lie back now," she is telling him that the part of him that has lived on within her can now die too. In the previous stanza, we have talked about vampire staking, the process of vampire staking. In the final stanza, the speaker reveals that her father, though dead, has somehow lived on like a vampire to torture her. It is claimed that she must kill her father the way that a vampire must be killed, with a stake to the heart. And she also explains that the people around them, or her father, the villagers, always suspected that there was something different and mysterious about her father. With the final line, the speaker tells her father that she is through with him, done with him. While he has been dead for years, it is clear that the memory of him has caused her grief and great struggle. The speaker was unable to move on without acknowledging that her father was in fact a brute. Once she was able to come to terms with what he truly was, she was able to let him stop torturing her from the grave. So, we have come to the end of our discussion today. And these are the major themes you can find in this poem. Plight of a girl, father and daughter relationship. In this poem, a male figure is seen as a brute, cruel, fearful creature. World War II, Holocaust, killing of Jews, Plath's Electra complex, etc. Most importantly, I am indebted to these books and sites. They have helped me a lot to create this video. Please subscribe my channel if you like my video, share it, like it, and spread it among friends. That's all for the day. Thank you. Thanks a lot.